Loudmouth.
You can call me Loudmouth or Jay. Hello, everyone. We're live on the air, and I'm here joined with Ruth LaTourelle, and also with my puppy Cora. She's always joining us. She's always eager to please everyone on YouTube. And Ruth here has a channel dedicated to mental health. I watched a couple of videos. They are pretty good and very well informed and well researched. And I thought I'd bring her on my channel to discuss what I think is a very important issue in our modern society. How are you doing today, Ruth?
Thanks so much for saying all that. I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good. Is the audio okay, everybody? If anyone's in the chat, let me know.
Yeah, I hear you just fine. You're coming in well.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, but like Loudmouth said, I just started my channel like a little over a month ago. I do mental health videos. Do you want to know a little background about me, I guess?
Sure. Yeah, tell us your background and why you chose to start a YouTube channel on that subject.
Sure. So I did my degree when I was in college. I graduated with like social work and human development, family sciences. So I have a Bachelor of Science in that. And so I went into the social work field right after I graduated, which was really intense. I was a social worker for Child Protection Services, which can be fairly traumatic, but also an important field. And I did that for not even 8 months. So I kind of took a different direction after that whole thing kind of blew up. I had to take a step back because my mental health was regressing a lot during that period, even though it was already kind of not well for about a period of 5 years. After I did that, I just started doing more mindfulness, and I'm a yoga instructor now. So I do that to help with my mental health. I also do some side jobs and stuff to kind of get the cash flow in, but it's a little different not having a completely full-time social work job from like your entire day and always being on call and stuff like that. So I'm also certified in mental health first aid, and that's really helped because I've already been through a lot of things. I have depression, I have panic disorder, I have had suicidal things in the past. And so I've kind of moved on from that, and now I'm doing mental health awareness and education.
Yeah, I think it's a very important thing to really provide awareness of, because there's a lot of stigma I find around mental health issues.
Yeah.
And a lot of people professing very ignorant views on that. One of my first non-movie based videos I ever did on my channel was one where I responded to an InfoWars bloviator, Paul Joseph Watson, who made one of the worst YouTube videos I've ever seen, called The Truth About Depression, where he just got everything completely and utterly wrong. And what was really funny about it is a lot of his claims were debunked so easily. It was scary. Like, I just needed to do like a 5-minute Google search, and I already disproved him. And his video had like no sources whatsoever. He just kind of ranted off the top of his head, and but the guy's got 1 million subscribers, so all that kind of ignorance people like him spread really does a lot of damage.
I agree. I think the hard part about that is when somebody just is so confident about, oh, this is this view, and they have so many subscribers, nobody's going to question it. Then they're being completely misinformed. It's, yeah, not good.
It's a common thing among his videos, though. They always have no sources to back up anything he says.
Yeah,
that's always a good way of telling someone who's legit versus a bullshit artist how many sources they can provide and where they come from.
Sure. Yeah, and along that same vein, I try to provide a lot of sources in my videos. I definitely, so the way I approach mental health now that I've kind of gone through all the emotional side of it, and I'm just working on getting better and getting my body better and everything, I just approach it from a very pragmatic kind of way, which I'm sure you've seen in my videos. I want to be scientific. I want to be factual. I don't want to talk about, my first video was about how depression is a physical thing in your body. And of course it's affecting your brain, but everybody thinks it's such an emotional thing. And sometimes it's just that your body isn't working correctly. And so for me personally, not to get too detailed, but after I got through all the emotional part, the physical part of depression was still affecting my body in such a big way. And it was like I was getting so tired of people talking about it like it's about your feelings and, you know, which it is. But after you get past that, it's really just a medical problem. And that's how I want to address it too.
Right. I watch there Teal Deer. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's one of my favorite YouTube channels.
Nope.
But
I'm actually, in looking at your channel, I'm familiar with a lot of like people you follow and I follow. I do a lot of the
yeah,
kind of
he did a
political
video a
side.
while ago about kind of about the effects of isolation and the depression and how it like literally degrades and destroys the human body.
Right.
Talked about how like intense sleep deprivation that can come from isolation, all right, and the depression it causes can lead to cortisone, I believe, being released in the bloodstream, which can actually dramatically reduce your cardiovascular health.
Cortisol. Yep. Yep. That's a big hormone to watch out for.
Cortisol, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it was very interesting. It really does show how certain things that they will say are psychosomatic or all in your brain really do have physical detrimental effects on the body. The fact that something is in a way psychosomatic doesn't preclude that it has real damaging effects.
That's an amazing sentence. I totally agree. That's kind of how I approach it. Like, even if it's coming from a psychosomatic place, doesn't mean it's not happening. It's not real. It's not really affecting your body and something you need to take care of. Let me look at. Yeah. So did you have any kind of course for how you wanted the discussion to go? I have a couple things I want to talk about, but also I'm just like, I like conversations. I'm very easygoing, so we can talk about anything.
Yeah, I'm more of a free discussion because I really like bringing awareness to mental health issues. So something I've always wanted to like host more of people who have channels specifically dedicated to that subject and for discussions on the matter. What are some really good advice that you have for my audience and me as well? Because I also have anxiety and depression for reducing it and basically coping.
Yeah, so I actually just did a video on tips for anxiety, and it was just a short video. They're kind of some unconventional tips, but obviously, as we know, there's so many different ways to attack it. The problem with mental illness is that there's not one quick fix. It's not like you have a virus, you treat that virus. You have to take a really multifaceted approach, and that's what's hard, and that's why a lot of people, unfortunately, don't get better or don't make it sometimes, and that's, you know, something we have to acknowledge. It's because it's so hard to treat, but that doesn't mean it's not possible. So that's kind of why I keep a really positive vibe on my channel. It is possible to get better. You just have to take a really multifaceted approach, attack it from multiple angles. So in that vein, there are so many suggestions. Obviously, some I can make are the physical suggestions. So your diet, what you're eating, your sleeping patterns, trying to get up and go to bed at the same times and make sure your body doesn't have a lot of abrupt changes because that causes anxiety as well. And then I highly recommend on like the mental spiritual side, meditation. As I said, I'm a yoga instructor and I also incorporate mental health and meditation within that. And of course, I have a part of that in a video that I said, or in a video that I made about that, I said that meditation can be so many different things. People kind of are afraid of it, but it could be, if you're religious, it's prayer. If you love nature, it's quiet time, things like that. So there are so many things you can do with that. And then, of course, there's social things like you were talking about, social isolation really contributing to mental illness. You can attack it from that angle as well. You need to surround yourself with people that are supportive, with people that make you feel alive and feel like you have a human connection. And, you know, I could go on and on, but those are some basic categories of suggestions I would say to help reduce anxiety.
Yeah. It was actually one of my motivations for adopting a puppy was I was lonely for a while and I thought being able to take care of a puppy, all right, I'd have kind of this little lifelong companion.
Absolutely. And that's actually companion animals and therapy animals are proven to help a lot with that. That's actually very backed up by science and research. Do you live by yourself?
Yeah, I live by myself. Well, I got a roommate now, but it's kind of a temporary thing. Most of the time I live by myself.
Sure.
Yeah, and because of that, I've always kind of had some loneliness. But
Mhm.
and my old puppy, my old dog, he died last year. Well, he was more of a family pet. We
Right.
got him when I was like in middle school, and he
Yeah,
lived for
so you
over
had him for
14.
a
He lived
while.
for over, huh?
Oh, you had him for a while then.
Yeah, he lived for over 14 years, and then last year he died. And since then, I didn't really have a dog in my life, and
Right.
so I figure it was about time I adopted a new one. I went visited a whole bunch of shelters, and we eventually found this litter of puppies from downtown, and I
That's really
picked
good.
one.
So you
Yeah.
feel that Cora has helped a lot with your anxiety symptoms?
Sometimes it's like good to have her around as a companion, but she is a lot of work. So in that way, a lot of my free time that I would usually have is, whereas normally I would just kind of be in my own head and myself. I'm worried about what this puppy's doing, whether she's in the wrong part of the house, leaving me little presents or chewing on
Yeah.
something she's not supposed to be chewing on. Stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Do you feel that having somebody else to take care of is like helpful for any mental health stuff for you?
Yes, actually, it feels. How do I put this? Yeah, like that somebody really needs you. Like I said, social isolation, I feel, is one of the biggest causes of modern day stress and depression. And that is a big reason why I believe why male suicide rates are dramatically higher than female suicide rates, is because
Mhm.
men, on average, are far more likely to suffer from social isolation than women are.
What do you think contributes to that? The
Um,
social isolation.
well, generally, intimacy is a far easier thing for a woman to get, but even beyond that, women are far more likely to have a system of friends and family behind them. Men are much more likely to live alone than women. There's actually a lot of various things in society that really contribute to that. Like they've shown that throughout history, right, only about twice as many women on average in any population succeed in spreading on their genes to the next generation from genetic studies. So very likely, kind of very small percentage of men were have always had it all, whereas the vast
Right.
majority of their peers were often kind of left out.
Okay, yeah, that seems like it would cause a lot of social isolation.
Yes. So yeah, that's one of the big things that I believe is a cause of a lot of mental health problems nowadays. And
Hmm.
I often, like, one of my last videos was about this writer for the Guardian kind of wrote this article I thought was incredibly ignorant about socially isolated men. Kind of like, because there was this one nutcase who like killed some people in Canada, and she just
Right.
kind of used it to basically tar and feather all men who are suffer from social isolation, try to paint them as all evil terrorists and misogynists. And I thought it was total bullshit.
Yeah, I actually watched that video you did. That was one of your recent ones, right?
Yes, yeah, it was my
Yeah.
last one, I believe.
Yeah. What do you think is a good solution for that? Because I do kind of see that trend happening, especially, yeah. And the male suicide rate is 4 times higher than the female.
Right,
Well, I suppose completion rate.
right. Solution to that, it's really hard to say, honestly. But I just honestly think a bigger thing is to destigmatize mental health issues, because a lot of the time where certain men who are mentally ill and have serious social isolation problems, they'll often head to really self-destructive avenues. That's
Hmm.
like some of those incel forums are. That's what those are. They're very
Right.
self-destructive and self-defeating ways of trying to deal with your isolation. I feel like a lot of these guys, if they had more people willing to help them out with their issues, I feel like a lot of them would have healthier outlets to deal with their problems.
Sure, and I think they think that's an okay avenue to deal with those
I
issues,
just
but
see it as
then
out of desperation, though. A lot of people like see this as something that they're choosing, but I see it as more they just don't know where else to go, and I think they need somewhere healthier to go.
I agree, and I think the problem is that enough people that have been disenfranchised in that way, they kind of get together in a group and that festers, and then there's,
Yeah.
bitterness and anger, and that's not actually going to help them in the long run.
Right, and ironically, loneliness they found is actually contagious. As in, if lonely people all congregate together, oftentimes they're depressive symptoms that they can each reinforce their symptoms onto each other. Which
Yeah,
that's kind of an irony. You think, oh, if all these lonely people just got together, they wouldn't be lonely. But that's actually not how it works.
right. That's really interesting. Yeah, I think it depends on what they're focusing on. You got to focus on positive things, and I don't just mean in like a platitude kind of way. Just think positive, but if you really it takes work. You have to work on looking for positive things in your life and taking personal responsibility and look at how to change your life and make it better and make it what you want.
Uh-huh. Well, you mentioned you do yoga to help cope with your anxiety and depression. What are other things you do?
Yeah, so like I said, I teach yoga, and with that, we'll just go on a slight tangent. There are so many different kinds. So there's like meditative. I do kind of workout yoga because obviously that exercise releases endorphins and that really helps my body stay regulated. We have aerial yoga, if you've ever seen in like the slings where people are hanging from the ceiling and stuff. And then hot yoga as well. And I do stuff outdoor. Other, sorry, were you going to say something?
No, no.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Other than that, I travel a lot. And I know that's not something that's available to everybody, and I understand that, but traveling kind of helps my brain get a change of scenery and look forward to something, if that makes sense. I noticed during college when I felt like I was stuck in the same town, I was a lot more suicidal than when I had trips planned. And I mean, I'll be candid about this. I don't want to trigger anybody or anything. I'm sure, I'm candid about it, but like when I would have trips planned and stuff, I would think I need to stay alive for this, or I don't want to kill myself because I have stuff to do. And that's kind of odd, but it's literally give your brain any kind of reason to hang on and you'll start trying. You know what I mean?
Right. That's
Yeah,
often what would like get me through the next day is just kind of that vain hope that something would get better, you know?
exactly. And
I would
yeah,
often have anxiety attacks most frequently while I was sleeping. I'd often feel
really.
relatively calm while I was going to bed, and then like I would sleep for a couple hours and just wake up with with the mother of all anxiety attacks, and I'll just not want to like get on to the next morning. That's
Sure.
been a big thing for me.
Sure. Do you know what that stems from, and or how does it manifest for you, your anxiety attacks?
A lot of things. Like I said, sometimes it's loneliness. Sometimes it's I could have accomplished some. Thinking back to the past, thinking I should have said or done this at that time, but I didn't, and now that moment's gone. All right,
Right.
various things like that.
Yeah, overthinking and ruminating.
Yes, yeah. I feel that's
Absolutely.
a lot of people probably have the same thing.
Yeah, to varying degrees for sure. So getting back to things that help, something that really helps with that is therapy. And I know therapy is like some stigmatized taboo thing. People don't want to need a therapist or talk to somebody. But I have a video about this also. Like I said, I only have like 6 of them so far since I just started, but I think everybody should go to therapy or at least know what therapy is, experience it. And there's people that go to short-term therapy, they're going through a divorce or the loss of a family member or something. But if you are having mental health concerns, then there's absolutely no shame in going to therapy. It's just like going to the doctor. If you had an infection that you needed to take care of, or you broke your arm or something, if you're not going to heal it, if you're not going to work to heal it properly, it's not going to heal correctly. So,
Right. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I do, but honestly, no, I haven't gone in a long time because I never really found it all that helpful, to be honest. But I
mhm.
guess it depends on the different person,
So
different
yeah,
things work for different people.
depends on the person, depends on the type of organization you're getting therapy through, and it also depends on the type of therapy. So there are lots of different types. There's cognitive behavioral therapy, dialectic behavioral therapy. There's, yeah, things like that. Group therapies, EMDR, which I really like. If you've ever heard of that, that's a more physical one. It's kind of used for PTSD and trauma flashbacks and things like that. And that involves eye movement. And so there's so many different kinds, honestly.
Yeah, but I wonder how many of them actually work and how many of them are snake oil. You never know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Some of them, like, for example, there's like hypnotherapy and stuff, and I'm not sure who that works for, but it is, something that people try to use. I don't think it would work for me or somebody with like a valid mental health concern, but
I've heard of it working for some people. I actually have heard of positive benefits from that.
yeah. And
But it ultimately, it works only if you let it work. Like, what was it? One hypnotist who was like doing a show said, if you want to come up here and prove me wrong, prove that I can't hypnotize you, you'll win. All right. I only have any power over you if you give it to me, if you let me hypnotize you.
Sure. No, and I think, you know what, if something works for you, then it works for you, and everybody's different. And that's kind of the hard thing, I think, in treating depression, anxiety, OCD, and other mental health concerns, is that everybody is different, and the brain is a complex organ. We're not quite, we don't have an entire handle on how it works, and we don't know the scope and the depth and the breadth of how these illnesses actually are manifesting in the brain. We do see some of it on like brain scans, and our technology is getting better, but we don't know everything.
No, but I feel we'll know a lot more. Like Michio Kaku wrote a book I read a couple years ago, or was it last year, something like that. And he said that in the future, he believes that they'll be able to hook up brain scans and actually be able to like put on a computer monitor visions of what you're thinking. Like if you're dreaming things, like you'll be able to actually record your dreams. And he thinks that technology is not that far off. That seems kind of scary if you really think about it. Because within our minds,
I mean, I think anything's possible.
Right. Within our minds, we always have a kind of sense of privacy. Like within our thoughts, we can think whatever we want and the rest of the world will never know it. So a world like that, where even your thoughts are not entirely private, where they could be broadcast for others to see, that is a very scary thing to think of.
Sure. That's a really dystopian concept.
Yeah. It's kind of funny, like in something like Star Wars or Star Trek, well, they'll have things like interstellar travel mastered, and yet things like that they don't have in those movies, when we're probably much closer to such a thing than we are to interstellar travel in reality.
Right, exactly. I think we're closer to working in things on a small scale, like within the human body and things, than we maybe are with traveling at light speed or something. You know what I mean?
Well, the warp drive may well be impossible. It's possible we'll never invent it. So who knows, really? Or it might be possible, but somebody hasn't figured it out yet. Who knows what the future will bring? But I'm saying, in terms of like progress on the matter, in terms of understanding the human mind. But then again, if the human mind was like totally understood, then kind of what makes it magical is how little we understand it. Throughout history, kind of, there's always been a mystery about how the human mind works, and that lack of knowledge, it has kind of been seen both as dangerous in the case of mental illness, but also as kind of wonderful in that there's so much about us left to be discovered.
I actually agree. I think it's kind of encouraging to know that the brain is so complex, and even our best, cameras can't mimic the capabilities of the human eye, and our computers, and you know what I mean? I think it's kind of encouraging that we know we're complex and we're not just, simple, humans do X, Y, and Z. It's actually,
Yeah, the human brain is actually, if you were to like measure the computing power of the human brain into like megabytes or in random access data, it would be massively more powerful than the most powerful supercomputer on Earth.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good thing, even though, yeah, can be detrimental in that we don't always understand how to treat things or how to fix something within the brain. But we're learning, and it's nice that there's still so much more to discover.
Yeah. But but also if you think about it, the human mind has been developing for billions of years, whereas computers have only really been developing for a few decades. If you
Right.
like rate the amount of complexity that has been gained from computer evolution versus biological evolution, computer evolution is massively faster growing. So it's
Right.
possible, who knows, that the human mind might actually be eclipsed by our most powerful computers within our lifetime, actually.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure about that, considering the brain has so many different things that it does. But as far as computing power, yeah, that makes sense. And I think our technology is just advancing at an exponential rate. Like,
Yes.
yeah, there's
Yeah,
no,
like I'll play a video game now versus a video game I played as a kid, and how much massively more visually advanced it is.
absolutely. Yeah. And
And I'm
even
not
like,
that old, you know?
yeah, right. And our cell phones, medical technology. I'm very happy about the advancements we've made in that. In, you know, just the way things are going in the world. We have more vaccines. We have lower infant mortality rates. We've eradicated several diseases. So things like that are really encouraging.
They are, but they've also pushed the planet into disaster thanks to overpopulation. It's kind of the big irony. You fix one problem and then another pops up in its place.
Yeah, I suppose.
Like,
So,
yeah,
oh,
vaccines are probably in many ways the most wonderful invention humans have ever invented.
mhm.
People like, what's really funny is I've dealt with the anti-vaccine movement numerous times, and what's really funny is some of them will justify not vaccinating their kids because who's had any of these diseases in a long time?
Right.
It's because of vaccines that no one gets these diseases anymore.
Yeah, and like herd immunity and stuff. So,
Herd immunity, yeah.
yeah. So yeah, if only there were vaccines for like depression and stuff.
That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
I mean, the problem is that there are obviously people who do take it seriously, but it's hard to get across to people that just like if you had polio and you don't treat it, it will kill you. If you have severe depression, like it can progress to the point where it will kill you. Like people, I know that people say, obviously, you make the choice to do something fatal or something, but at that point, it's really not you kind of anymore. Um, and that's been really hard to see with some people that I've known.
Yeah, well, like if somebody ends their life by suicide, I like to say more like if somebody dies of cancer, we say that they lost their battle with cancer.
Right.
Or
Mm-hmm.
if somebody dies by suicide, we should also say similarly that they lost their battle with depression.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, we've definitely seen that time and time again with people just to give pop culture references, Robin Williams had been fighting for so long and he really did do his best and push through it and he worked the whole time and he made other people happy and sometimes you just do lose the battle.
Yeah, I remember when I found out that he had died. I was like really shocked when I heard it was a suicide. I'm like,
Mhm.
wow, because he always seemed. I remember watching him in movies as a kid, and the special
Yeah.
features on the DVDs. He always just seemed like a happy, joyful fellow, and
Yeah. No.
you learned that behind the scenes, no, he had serious depression. And he was a man who was beloved by millions of people, had money, fame, things that so many people just
Hmm.
wish, oh my God, everything would be so great if I had what he had. He had it, and he still committed suicide.
Sure, and that kind of goes to show you how serious mental illness can be because that kind of stuff doesn't just make it go away. It doesn't save you and it doesn't fix it. And that just kind of shows how much people have persevered, Robin Williams and people that and they're still here. They're really fighting, and that's something to be admired for sure. So, how do you feel? that we can reduce some stigma around either mental illness itself or seeking treatment for mental illness, or just around promoting mental health in the first place, not even necessarily focusing on the disorders and stuff, but promoting being proactive about your mental health.
Hmm. Encouraging people to get therapy and really always knowing, being willing to help out somebody who is depressed is very important. This is
Mm-hmm.
something that people just need to know with their friends and close relations. If somebody says they're depressed, oftentimes people will ignore it. Whereas if I said I had cancer, people will be far more sympathetic, even though depression
Right.
kills far more people my age than cancer does.
Correct. Yeah.
People really need to take depression seriously. People really need to really always offer a helping hand to somebody who is depressed. And people really need to stop stigmatizing it. Like feel like I do that a little bit on my channel when I take on people like that Guardian author in my last video who was going out of her way to just be really vindictive to people with mental health issues. I feel like
Right.
trying to counteract her disinformation, I feel was also trying to break the stigma of mental illness.
Right. I agree. And like I said, I liked that video. What I haven't gone extremely far back in your catalog yet, but what other videos have you done on mental health and reducing the stigma around that?
Probably a video that gotten a lot of praise from people who've seen it, even though it hasn't got that many reviews, was my movie review of Me Before You. That was
Oh yeah.
also segues into being a suicide prevention video.
Cool. I will definitely have to watch that. I liked that movie, obviously cried about it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my review of that movie is very negative. I chastised that movie for promoting suicide.
Yeah. No, I don't mean I liked the theme, and I like felt moved by that movie and I was crying about it and stuff. So, but I definitely don't think that it was extremely responsible.
No, I thought the ending particularly was pretty repulsive.
Hmm.
The fact that she loses her man to suicide and afterwards she's just sitting there in a French cafe with a big smile on her face reminiscing about him. I thought that was a really that was a really nasty way to end that movie, if you really
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah, I'll have to watch your video on that. That would be interesting.
I go through possible with evolutionary psychology, I point out the fact that throughout evolution, all right, there have been so many genes, all right, or so many cells that have competed against each other to create an organism going back and back and back for billions of years. Thus, if you were to go back a billion years and calculate the odds of us eventually coming into being, the odds against our existence are so astronomically overwhelming that us
Absolutely.
being here for this short period of time is in a way a miracle in and of itself.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you take that approach, because when you talk to people who maybe they're nihilists or they just think nothing has meaning, I can't identify with that, because yeah, life itself is essentially a miracle, and the amazing things that you're capable of and the amazing ways that you can connect with other people. And I learn a lot of this, through my yoga practice and just through having been alive and having gone through all of mental health issues and stuff. Yeah, I'm not sure where I was going with that, but it's things are amazing, and to think that life doesn't have any meaning, and that nobody's special and we don't have any purpose, I think that's kind of bizarre.
I do kind of see where it comes from. Like in a billion years, from now, well, nobody will remember who we are. So what would it be?
Sure.
It'll be like we never existed at all in the minds of everyone, of anything that possibly exists by then.
Well, sure, I understand that, but for the present time, now is
Yeah.
all that exists right now, and so we do have meaning, and we do have to create our own meaning, kind of. And
Yes.
you know
Like the movie Watchmen kind of made that point. Well, that was actually why Rorschach, one of
hmm
the main heroes, has a Rorschach pattern as his
yeah.
symbol, because he says that life is like a Rorschach pattern. It has no meaning other than the meaning you assign to it.
hmm Yeah, and we do have to create our own meaning and really try to get something out of life while we're here.
Yeah. That's actually one of my favorite movies. I even use a brief clip of it in my Me Before You video.
Really? Yeah.
Yes.
No, I'm excited to watch that.
Oh yes, you should be excited for everything I post. I haven't been able to post very much, mostly just
Yeah.
because of her. Really, she takes up all the time that I would normally be making videos. Is
Yeah.
mostly now devoted to taking care of this little puppy.
Aw. Well, that's an honorable endeavor.
Yeah, she'll have more independence when she gets older, though.
Yeah.
She won't need me to like take care of her all the time when she's older.
Right, definitely. How often do you or have you usually made videos?
As often as I can, really. It's mostly just I make them. I don't put any of my videos on a set schedule. I say, like I'll have people ask, when are you gonna make the follow-up to that video? When I have time.
Yeah, yeah. Whenever I can.
Bills need a paying.
Yeah. And how long ago did you start making YouTube videos?
A few years ago, about a little less than 3 years ago.
Okay, wow. Yeah, so in comparison, I just started a little over a month ago. So
yeah. And you only had 18 subs last time, but I'm sure it'll grow over time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I only have a couple of videos, so the last one that I just posted, I'm starting to do some more different stuff. I kind of just did sit down educational vlogs before and kind of did my research and all that stuff. And then this last one I just posted yesterday is like that whole what I eat in a day kind of tag, but I talked about what I eat for mental health and what kind of foods help your brain function better. And so there's a lot of nice footage of me like cooking and like talking about the health benefits of certain foods and how they help your brain function better and how they can improve your mental health. So I was excited about that one and starting to do some more different stuff.
I really like with most of my videos, I really like to make people laugh whenever I can. So I'll try to put little skits and jokes in them. One of my favorites I think I did was when I reviewed the movie Hope Floats, which is a Patreon requested video. Okay. I kind of thought of the line of Pennywise from It, "You'll float too." Everything's down here. So I do one where I Photoshop my face on top of Pennywise in that sewer scene.
Oh my gosh!
Like the kid's like, "Do we float?" Oh yes. Hope floats. Float. Yes, review.
That's funny.
Yes.
Yeah, comedy is definitely a kind of a unifier. Everybody's looking for that.
Right.
Yeah.
Though you always got to worry about whether this joke goes too far or not. It's always a balancing act.
Yeah, I suppose you kind of wanted to convey the thing that you're trying to convey, but you don't want to put anybody off by it, I suppose.
Because ultimately, all comedy, if you think about it, is rooted in pain. I feel comedy has kind of evolved as a coping mechanism to kind of find some joy in the misery and suffering of the world around us.
Comedy is absolutely a coping mechanism. In fact, if you listen to a lot of comedians tell their stories or talk about things like that, especially even Robin Williams, who
yes,
a lot of comedy, but you know, it is a coping mechanism for sure. And a lot of these people use it to express all that they've been through in a positive outlet.
Yeah, very often times something will be funny because it will resonate with the audience. Like it'll observe. He'll say something that people will laugh just because it's funny because it's so true. Like,
yeah, observation.
He puts it in such a blunt way.
Yeah,
that's what George Carlin did a lot.
Yep. I mean, I obviously know George Carlin's work. I haven't really listened to a lot of his stuff, but he definitely had a good approach.
Very blunt. It's like Bill Barr's another guy I really like. He's also like that, really, really blunt. Like his video on the wage gap was funny. My girlfriend was like, "What? Well, why do men get paid more? Because if we're on the Titanic, for some reason, you're allowed a seat." All right. And me going down with the ship, there's a surcharge on that.
That's funny. Yeah, they're going down first.
Yes. I thought that was pretty funny.
Um,
Um,
oh shoot.
Hey, Ryan, let me read the chat. Your review of Monsters University was good, and the message of dealing with failure. Yes, that's another. He mentions my review of Monsters University, and that was another issue I touched upon in that one, was
Mhm.
dealing with failure. And I really praised that movie because I feel it did a good job of educating kids on how to deal with failure.
Yeah, that's great. I love the message behind almost every Pixar movie. I love Pixar. I'm sure you do too.
Oh, I adore Pixar.
Like,
Up is one of my all-time favorite movies, period.
yeah. It's hard to explain since we're like adults, but I'm like every movie they produce is almost perfect. Like even for adults, children. I love it. I don't
Oh,
know.
yeah, Coco was one of my favorite movies of last
I
year.
loved Coco.
Oh my God.
Did you do a review on Inside Out?
Um, I included it in my top 10 favorite movies of 2015 video.
Okay.
Yeah, I normally if I do like a review, it's usually of a movie I dislike
Okay.
because it's easier to make a video funny if
Yeah.
I'm screaming and making fun of a movie rather than praising it.
Sure, yeah. You get to kind of tear it apart a little bit.
Yeah, I'll be able to like scream, "Fuck this movie!" and everyone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Inside Out was one that I loved.
loved it. Loved that movie.
And speaking of mental health, obviously, it paints a picture that I think we haven't seen in a lot of movies about kind of how things work behind the scenes. And obviously, it's fantasy and it's, you know, an animated
Yeah.
movie, but it does talk a lot about how traumatic memories work and that kind of thing. So,
Yeah, that was a very clever movie. Yep. Anything by Pete Docter are all really good because it was had the same director who made Up, and Up
yeah,
is probably their best one.
yeah, yeah. I thought it was phenomenal for sure.
And did you see the most recent one, The Incredibles 2?
I did, yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
It was fun, and like we waited forever for that.
Yeah, 13 and a half years. That's how
Yeah,
long it took Brad Bird to get off his ass and make a sequel to The Incredibles.
I agree. I saw some tweet or something like all the kids can get out of the way. I've been waiting for this movie for like 15 years.
Yeah, like the kids who were 4 years old when the first one came out are now like headed to college.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're like, hey, this movie's for us adults. You guys can wait.
And I love that they did kind of a follow up of the best scene in the first movie, the "Where's my super suit" scene.
Yeah, that was good.
Wait, where are you going, ASAP? You better be back here, ASAP. Oh yeah, that was so funny.
That was really fun. What's your favorite like genre of movie?
Favorite genre of movie? That's really
You
tough
you
because
lean toward, you know, the animated films, or do you like the superhero movies, or kind of?
I do like superhero movies, but as Brad Bird pointed out in his audio commentary on The Incredibles, he said
Mhm.
animation is not a genre. Animation is an
Sure.
art form used to convey many different genres. And I
That is
really do take that to heart. And I really think that any concept can be made into a great movie if there's really good heart and passion behind it.
Yeah,
And
no,
really,
that's absolutely true.
like what was it? Who had thought a movie about Legos would be good, but the Lego movie is actually really good.
Yeah, yeah, that was good, and I think resonated with a lot of people.
Right. Right. What's another one that's a really terrible, seems like a terrible concept, but it ended up being a great movie? What would be
Hmm. Hmm.
another example of that?
Yeah, yeah, and it's wonderful to see how creative people get. Um, yeah, cinema is a really big thing for in my
It's basically an art form, yes.
yeah, definitely.
You do wonder, like, if movies had existed like 500 years ago, how would they be different from the ones we have today?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Have you thought about that much?
Yeah, I think about things like that. Like I like a lot of reading like old literature and stuff.
Yeah.
to try to see like the different mindset. I'll often really get frustrated when people will try to apply modern standards to something that's centuries old and like bitch it out because it doesn't fit modern standards. Again, back to the last video. That's another thing that woman, that Guardian writer did.
Sure. Yeah, totally. And they're from different eras. You can't really, it's like apples and oranges.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, yeah, certainly great writers of history had views that today's people would look down upon. Like Aristotle argued passionately for slavery, for example, but we can still appreciate, we can reject Aristotle on that and still appreciate his philosophical insights and other things.
Absolutely. And we can also use that to appreciate how much we've evolved as a society as well. Just that, for example, thinking about slavery, for example, everything, it was so mainstream and just accepted. This is how we treat people. These people aren't like us. And that's an atrocity. But to see that we don't automatically think that anymore and we don't have slavery is like, thank goodness we've evolved as a species and a society.
Yes. Was another thing I was reading. I decided to reread Rudyard Kipling's The Jungle Book before that new adaptation is coming out, and it is also very interesting the way the kind of more family-friendly Disney version is kind of supplemented in most people's minds today. The much more dark and grim thematic original material. Yeah, in a lot of people's minds. And that's the case with a lot of old stories, because if you really like go back to their origins, a lot of them are really messed up as hell.
Sure, the fairy tales and all the Brothers Grimm, and basically every Disney movie we know has a really messed up fairy tale behind it.
Yeah, like The Little Mermaid, the original book. She doesn't get the prince at the end; she dies at the end.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, and the Sea Witch takes away her ability to speak by literally slicing her tongue out.
Terrible.
Yeah. So I feel not like just making her sing, and she doesn't get her voice back after that.
Do you like when they do remakes of movies?
Depends. Certain times a remake can be better than the original.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time it's just a lame cash grab.
I agree. I think I see a lot of that. They're just exploiting the brand for more.
Yeah.
But I really do like when they put a new twist on it, or it's kind of a different genre. For example, speaking of The Little Mermaid, I think I saw a trailer somewhere floating around for a new kind of darker live action Little Mermaid. And of course it's like a similar story, but the fact that it's got a completely different feel, that's good to see. And then you're like, oh, I could get something different out of this story than I did before.
Yeah, like I said, there Andy Serkis has like a new movie adaptation of Jungle Book coming out called Mowgli, which I think Netflix just bought. And like a lot of people were posting in the comments section, hey, wait a minute, didn't we just get a Jungle Book movie? Why are we getting another one? Right. Totally unaware of just how vastly different Disney's Jungle Book is from Kipling's, whereas Andy Serkis was very clearly trying to bring it back to its original source material.
Sure.
Or but like a lot with Disney nowadays, they keep remaking all their old classics, and most of them, they're not good at all. Their remakes are often really bad, but they keep making tons of money, so they keep making.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of times they're not that much different. Like the Cinderella, the live action Cinderella, I liked it a lot, but I was like, it's
not that different.
Yeah, it's not that different storyline wise, but
the one that pissed me off really was Maleficent, the one from 2014. I really hated that movie.
What'd you hate about it?
That it took a big dump, not only on the original fairy tale, but also on the 1957 movie.
Yeah.
Like, they totally ruined one of the best villains ever. I mean, I know the character wasn't that complicated in the original Sleeping Beauty, but she had presence. And the voice actress did a good job making her voice insanely maniacal.
Yeah. So you would have liked to have kept the narrative to be evil supervillain?
Yeah, in this one, they make her a good guy, but not in a fun way. Not like there
Right.
are so many better examples of like really developing a villain. All right, you can give a villain an extensive backstory without ruining them.
Hmm.
Like a great example is Demona, a character from the show Gargoyles, another Disney villain. I don't know if you watch that
I
show.
don't I don't know that one, but I have seen the Maleficent movies, so we can maybe
Uh,
compare a bit.
well, Demona basically is kind of this female gargoyle who slowly was given immortality and kind of developed hatred and insanity over the centuries. And one of my favorite scenes from the show is one where these fairies who kind of were following her over the millennia kind
Mhm.
of give her kind of a life review where she goes through all the horrible things that were done to her, and they break down that she kind of was responsible for all those things herself. You kept making all these bad choices. Who created the
Okay.
hunter? Who betrayed Macbeth to Canmore? And it goes all, and then she just kind of breaks down and starts crying, or at the end of the scene, and gives up the code that foils her evil plot.
Oh,
Yeah, fantastic scene,
yeah.
and a great example of how a villain being given an extensive backstory can work, and how
Mhm.
Maleficent, by contrast, it gives her an extensive backstory, but none of it really adds up. Like it
Sure.
really could have the whole idea of her wings getting cut off, what have you. That
Mhm.
actually could have been done better. Like a reviewer named Bob Shanks did a very good alternative take that would have made the prince more sympathetic at the end. Well, I had to. They would have come after you if I didn't. I had right. I was forced to slay and hurt the one I love. That all right, like that would have actually been a much better ending, but instead
Yeah.
it makes him a cookie cutter villain who's bad for no reason.
Right. Yeah. Kind of gives her a complicated backstory, but it doesn't quite hold water.
Doesn't hold water. Yeah, it attempts and utterly fails to give her a complicated backstory.
Sure, that was their goal, but
So, which the whole movie in the end was just a complete mess.
hmm.
Let's see the chat. Well, so Ryan says, unlike other Disney remakes, Maleficent at the very least tried to add more to the original story. Yeah, if you're gonna do that though, you got to do it well. Or if you're gonna really alter a character, you really got to get your shit together, or it's just gonna piss people off.
Hmm. I guess I didn't think it was terrible. I think they were just really taking it in a different direction
They wanted it to
than
be
we
like
were.
Wicked, basically.
Yeah, yeah, something. Yeah, and we weren't not really used to that.
Mm-hmm. And what's another like really bad remake?
Uh,
What do you think is the worst remake of all time?
there's so many to think of. Do you have one? I'll keep thinking.
Definitely, M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender.
Oh, I didn't see that actually, but it was probably terrible.
Oh yeah, it butchered that show, and you can tell that I'm a big fan of that show
I
because I
used to
named my
watch. I
yeah
Yeah, no, I used to watch that show as a kid, so I'm kind of glad I didn't see that movie because
yeah.
yeah.
Well, one of the things it did, the acting was really, really, really bad, and what's really frustrating about that movie is all the characters do throughout the movie is try to cram a whole season's worth of exposition into 90 minutes. And
Hmm.
that's all the characters do throughout that whole movie. They just explain and explain and
Oh,
explain. And it is dull. It is boring. And it is just a really frustrating experience in the end. There's
mm,
like no emotion behind it. You never
sure,
hear anyone's feelings or never develops them as characters. All they do is just explain exposition.
sure. It's not storytelling in the sense that you're feeling the story. It's like they're just trying
Right.
to explain it.
It's just explaining. It feels more like homework.
Right, which is like not true storytelling. They think they're telling you something, but it's not coming through on like a sub level for you. Yeah.
Right. And I watched this one video from when that movie came out back in 2010, and they had a bunch of people at the premiere who were fans of the show, and a lot of them were dressed up as characters from the show, and none of them liked the movie.
Yeah.
They were all trashing it, saying, "Oh, it kind of sucked." They even said to the crowd, "Did anyone like this movie?" The whole crowd yells, "No!"
Ooh.
Yeah, well, I've never seen an adaptation just fail as badly as that one did.
Yeah. I can think of some that I don't think were horrendous, but I didn't like. Did you read A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle when you were younger?
I don't believe I did, and I have not seen that movie either. Did you think the adaptation was bad?
Well, no. So there is an original older adaptation that I kind of liked, and of course it was an older movie, so you give it a little bit of grace for not being super up to date with the special effects and stuff. But they just redid one, and it had Reese Witherspoon and Oprah Winfrey and Mindy Kaling in it. And when I saw the trailers for that with, you know, all the Disney's effects and the cool actors, I got chills and I was so excited. When I saw the movie, pretty lackluster.
Yeah,
Like,
that movie didn't get very good reviews. Like I said, I haven't seen it, so.
no, and the sad thing is I was so excited for it and I think it could have been great, but I'm not sure. I'm trying to think of why I didn't like it. I don't think the story held together very well. It wasn't like super cohesive and they were doing stuff and you were just like, why are they doing these things? I don't know. It was disappointing.
Uh-huh.
And I love A Wrinkle in Time and it's a really great novel. And yeah, but so they kind of ruined that for me.
Yeah. Let's see. What was another really lackluster adaptation? Oh, the Percy Jackson movies.
Oh yeah.
Those made all kinds of changes to the source material, which really pissed me off.
I didn't read the source material, so but I'm sure
the source material is very, very good in terms of its knowledge of Greek mythology. You can really tell that Rick Riordan really had a really passionate love for the old Greek myths.
Yeah.
And there's so many subtle things in his novels that you really have to be familiar with the old Greek myths even to get. And the movie just relentlessly changed all kinds of things, and a lot of the changes made no sense.
Sometimes like I feel like to like shoehorn in certain scenes or concepts, and you're like, "That why did you like?"
Well, like what they did with Hades was really bad. He's really described very faithful. Ow! Hey, bad puppy. All right, you're gonna have to go down. All right. Yep. Hold on. Puppy. There you go. All right. She gets bitey when she gets riled up.
Yeah, that's a puppy for you.
That is a puppy. From what I read, it's very common puppy behavior. But what was I talking about?
You're talking about Hades?
Yeah, Hades, yes. In the novel, he's really described very similar to how he is in the myth. And if you read the myths of Hades, he's often kind of confused with the Christian Satan, like he's the Greek mythology version of Satan. But in the myth, he's actually one of the nicest gods in Greek mythology, ironically. I mean, he still punishes unworthy souls and tortures them, so he's not exactly a saint, but he's very kind of fair and just. Like, people come before him, he'll actually give them what they want if they like follow certain conditions and what have you. Whereas Zeus and Poseidon, if anything, were much nastier in the myths than Hades was. Yeah, you never see that in like modern portrayals. Usually it's always they always like to have Hades be the villain, which is never really how it is in the myth. And the Percy Jackson, at least in the book, really got Hades very close to the way he is in the myths. And then the movie threw that out the window.
They were just like, Hades is the worst.
What they did with him was they made him like a retired old rock star or something. It just was really bad. I'm like, weird. You totally screwed this up.
Huh. Well, that's very odd.
Yeah, it was.
And they were doing an adaptation from the source material. Or they were
Correct.
attempting to. And then they just threw that out the window.
They threw so many things out the window. They made all kinds of really dumb changes. Oh, Ares isn't in the movie, even though
Oh,
the main climax of the book was Percy fighting with Ares.
yeah. Yeah. That kind of stuff makes me upset. I'm like, you ruined this book for me. Not that they could really ruin a book, but you're so excited as being a fan of the lore, and then yeah.
Well, the book had a lot of clever ways to try to bring like the classic Greek mythology pantheon into modern times. Like would have the
Yeah.
gods modernize their appearance. Like Poseidon would kind of like wear like a Hawaiian shirt, or
Sure.
and Hades would, and Ares kind of had like a greaser leather jacket biker thing going on,
Hmm.
but which was very interesting. And had a fun explanation for why all these things were in America, which also wasn't in the movie. How the gods would like move to wherever the center of Western civilization was.
Oh, okay.
That's why they were in Rome and they had the Roman names: Jupiter, Mars, Saturn, what have you. And then they were in Britain when Britain ruled the world, and now they're in America.
Cool. Yeah. So
That was a very clever explanation for that the
that's
movie doesn't explain.
oh.
Well,
Um, this was a couple years back, but did you see Oz the Great and Powerful? It was like
yes,
had James Franco in it and Mila Kunis. I thought
yes.
that one was kind of weird. It didn't totally fall flat, but it wasn't as good as I was like hoping. I don't know. I thought it was an odd adaptation, but I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't really an adaptation. See, the Oz
Well,
books are
no,
all
but
public domain now, so people do all kinds of different stories in the Oz universe
yeah.
since then.
Yeah, no, I don't mean it as an adaptation of the original, but it was like they were same with Maleficent. They were just trying to do a different kind of story for the one character, and I think it was, yeah. I mean, it was a while ago, but
What's funny is in the novel, the Emerald City wasn't even really emerald. Oz just would make everyone wear emerald glasses so that all the citizens thought it was.
that it looked emerald. Yeah,
Yes. That's from the original book. Published in 1900. The book's actually pretty different from the movie. But
yeah.
everyone, again, most people remember the 1939 movie very fondly.
Definitely. That's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, so people's perception is mostly that movie more than the original book. Like, also in the book, it never indicates that the Land of Oz was ever just a dream. Like the
Hmm.
whole plot line of her dog being chased by someone who wants to put the dog down and her running away from home. None of that's in the book. She pretty
Right,
much is sucked up by a tornado within the first few pages.
right, and goes there.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
flying monkeys. Yeah, there's a lot of differences, but who might argue with a movie that's one of the most beloved of all time?
right, exactly.
And all the three main characters, the lion, the scarecrow, and the Tin Man, all become like rulers of various parts of Oz.
Really?
Yeah, the Emerald City, actually, the scarecrow is made the ruler of it at the end.
So, as opposed to the movie where they're like representations of her uncles or whatever, that not in there.
Right. That's not how the book was. No,
Right.
not at all.
It's an interesting concept though that they did go that route. Like the witch was, what's her face that was chasing the dog, and so it was kind of like made sense.
It made sense from a psychological standpoint, but I don't know. When you make the entire adventure that you've gone in most likely just a dream,
Yeah.
it does.
Right. I think part of it, yeah, they do kind of allude that it's a dream, but then part of it is like, was it though? But
There's a joke actually in an episode of Family Guy when this whole two-part episode it ends with Stewie taking off this kind of VR headset and
yeah.
revealing it was all just a simulation.
Um,
They're like, it involves Stewie taking over the world and revealing his true nature to everyone in a massive fight with his parents. And then he ends with him taking out the headset, and Brian's like, wait, so you're saying that that was all a dream? No, not a dream, a simulation. Like, yes, but it still ultimately didn't happen. So,
Right.
so when if somebody was watching that whole thing only to reveal that it didn't really happen, doesn't affect the series continuity, just feel like they got the big middle finger in their face?
Yeah.
It's like, no, I think people will be okay with it. Like, I don't know, Stu, I think you pissed a lot of people off this time.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, that was a really funny ending.
Yeah. I haven't seen that episode. I did see an
A
episode.
long time ago. I haven't watched Family Guy in years, to be honest, because it's gone
Yeah,
stale.
I would kind of watch it off and on, but nothing religiously or anything.
Yeah, I just remember that joke because that was really funny, and that's a great retort to any story that ends with it just being a dream.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, this discussion's gone off course, but doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I enjoy chatting with you.
Yeah, definitely. I enjoy chatting with you too, and it's kind of, an introduction since I am just coming on.
This is your first live stream, right?
This is my first live stream ever. Like I said, I hopped on YouTube a little over a month ago and haven't branched out much yet because I was just working on building up a couple of videos. I have like 5 or 6 right now. It's like, okay, if I have a catalog of like, this is what I do, then I can maybe start talking to some other people. And it is, even though you have your own channel, it is a community thing too. I want to live stream. I want to have conversations.
YouTubers, both big and small. I've talked to a few like bigger guys. I have had
Didn't you have Bearing?
Huh?
Didn't you have Bearing?
I talked with Bearing on a different channel, but I had Undoomed on my channel. Mm-hmm. One time that was pretty cool. I've had Logic on my channel.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they're both relatively big players.
Yeah. And so, are you still growing, kind of, or are you?
Yeah, my growth has slowed down. It's really weird the way the algorithm will catch certain things.
Fair.
My video review of Idiocracy.
Idiocracy.
About half my channel's views are just my Idiocracy review. and a lot of my subscribers just came from that. And like a year after I posted it, all of a sudden it just shot up in views totally randomly. And all of a sudden I started gaining like 1,000 subscribers within like a couple months, and then it's just flattened out again.
Sure. I guess you never know when something like that's going to happen.
Yeah. What's really frustrating now is YouTube changed the rules so that if you don't have 1,000 subscribers, your videos can't get monetized, and this can't go viral because only monetized videos go viral because YouTube wants to promote videos that'll make them money.
Yeah,
so I thought that was a really,
yeah, I know, because I was setting up my AdSense account like, a month ago when I started, and they're like, you need, I don't know if it's 4,000 hours of watch time or something and 1,000 subscribers. And I'm like, well, I'll never make any money.
Well, that wasn't the case when I started my channel. Like I remember in early 2017, I had one video went completely viral back when I only had like 200 subscribers.
Yeah.
My channel doubled in size over like a month after one video kind of caught the algorithm and went viral. Made me like almost $100. And that, I know it's kind of sad that can't happen to small channels today.
No, yeah, definitely. And of course, if you really love your channel and what you're doing, you're not doing it for the money. Like I'm making these because I don't care if 10 people see it. I don't care if 1 million people see it. I want to get the thoughts out, and I want to do mental health education. But yeah, it is kind of hard that smaller creators that do a lot of work and put a lot of work into their videos can't really see those benefits coming through.
Over by YouTube's. Yeah, YouTube seems to like go out of their way to make things more difficult for smaller creators. And I've always been outspoken against that.
Yeah, I think that makes it really hard and not for it.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to host. I try to host small channels whenever I can if I like their content.
Oh yeah, well, thank you very much. Like I said, I like conversations. I love human connection. I'm happy to talk to people and hear their ideas, and especially obviously I don't do politics on my channel, but I notice we've followed a lot of the same people, you know, kind of like Hi, I Think I'm Real and more alternative political channels because I like to hear lots of different ideas.
Yeah,
And
Real's a pretty smart dude. I've liked a lot of his videos.
he's super smart, yeah.
Uh, I remember I was watching one video of his where he did a response to one of my least favorite YouTubers, No Bullshit, and he played this one clip of his, and I just started laughing my head off and how stupid it was. No Bullshit. He said that the Hulk was the most manly Avenger, and he thought it was feminism being indoctrinating the last Avengers movie. The fact that the Hulk doesn't come out in the movie.
Oh my god. No.
Real just started like the face of that. Like yeah, Brooks, No Bullshit. I've interacted with him. He is the dumbest man I've ever interacted with on the internet.
I've watched a few of his videos. I don't know enough to like.
Yeah, I when I was funny, I was watching that on my phone, like when I was at a family event, Real's video there, and when he played that clip from Brooks, I started just laughing uncontrollably, and everyone was just looking at me like, "What the hell?"
Yeah, yeah.
Well, because like, how is a green rage monster seen as manliness? That's
right.
I think that like Thor or Captain America are the most manly Avengers.
Yeah, I agree. He's more just like rage.
He's a green giant rage monster. There's nothing manly about that, you know?
Right. It's not about masculinity.
No, not at all. Oh man, that was
yeah.
that was one of the funniest moments from any Real video.
That's funny. Yeah, feminists really trying to suppress that toxic masculinity.
Yeah. He's like that guy Brooks. He's like a parody of someone who's opposed to feminism. Like I'm generally not down on modern feminism either, but that guy just embarrasses me.
Sure, yeah.
Because he's just dumb.
Well, there's so many different, you know, YouTube politics isn't a monolith. There's so many different delineations. No. You've got people that kind of believe similar things and people that are even further. And then there's people that are maybe ultra conservative that you're like, this is embarrassing. Like, I don't know. So I know what you're saying.
Yeah, but that's what's really good about YouTube. The fact that anyone with a webcam can broadcast themselves to the world and possibly get famous, I really think is just an amazing thing. You don't need to be connected with anyone if you just make the right content. And you, of course, you can get screwed over by the algorithms. But if your content is good and the algorithm happens to promote it, you can become famous from your living room.
Yeah, and you know, not even fame itself, but just the ability to get your message out there. And you know, there's a niche for everything. There's people that decorate cakes, there's people that, you know, do makeup or whatever. There's so many different things that people are looking for.
Okay. Oh, don't know where my pup went.
You good?
Yeah, it was great talking with you, Ruth, but I'm probably going to have to cut this.
Yeah, you got to go.
Yeah.
All right.
Got to find my pup. But
all right.
Thanks for coming on my channel, Ruth. I hope this live stream gets you a few subs. Subscribe to Ruth. I'll have the link in the description. I'll add it later.
Yeah. Like you said, subscribe to me. I just started a month and a half ago, and I'm hoping to grow a little bit. And thank you so much, Loudmouth, for having me on. And thanks for everybody for watching.
All right. Everyone have a wonderful night. Bye everyone. All right.